Good morning. Hi, it's Man Mel on a rainy day here in central Missouri. I hope you've had a great week. I sure have. The hummingbirds came to my backyard as I was planting some of those plants that we talked about last week and the week before that attract hummingbirds. And the Orioles came. I could not be more happy. So if you're in central Missouri, it's time to look at those sessions of the past and get out what you need for Orioles and hummingbirds. But today we said we were going to talk about these guys, goldfinches. But the reality is, even though this bird is beautiful, and this is one of Margaret Cobain's beautiful little ornaments, there are some other beautiful birds coming. How about this guy? Do you remember what he is? Answer that question and you'll win a prize. We're also going to talk about other kinds of buntings. So, gave you a hint there. Name 2 different buntings and name 2 different kinds of grosbeaks, and you'll win a prize. I do need all of you to let us know all you can about us. In my notes, I have that, hey, we're going to give you prizes if you tell us what state you're from. So please, everybody that enters a contest, that tells us which state you're from, you're going to be entered in a pool of winners. All of you that tell us where you're from in Missouri, you'll also be in a pool of winners. But before we get into that sort of stuff, my notes had told me I want to tell you our goal. And our goal is to get you and your children away from electronics a little bit today in the rest of your life. And as I do every session, I've got to say, nature is a stress reliever from God. Let's take time today to listen to the birds sing. And we're going to help you on how to know what birds are out there. We're going to have fun. I'm going to make you smile is my goal, as we try to do every time. We're going to have lots of free tips and lots of free prizes. You're going to win this pair of optics, over $160 worth. And it's a great, great prize. One of the past winners reached out to me and said, oh my God, Mel, I couldn't believe how good those optics were. They worked as good as a $500 pair. So you want to go to your local wild bird supplier and ask them for some of these sheltered wing optics. And know that your local wild bird supplier, they'll have as good a prices as anybody on the internet. So why not go somewhere that can teach you how to use them? Be there when you have questions. And better yet, tune in a few weeks. We're going to have an expert on our expert day talk to you about how to pick out the right optics, how to use them, and that sort of thing. And we'll talk about some other experts as we go. So we're going to be fast-paced. We're going to go no more than 30 minutes. But I want to remind you one more time, everything you see, you can get at your local wild bird supplier. Go see those guys for wild bird products. See those local family-owned nurseries and lawn and garden centers for the plants I talk about, and see that local hardware store for the lumber, the tools, and the lumber yard. Locally owned is something you'll hear me say over and over. Those are the companies that are there for you every day. On our prizes, the more you participate, the more you can win. I told you already, tell us where you're at. One of you in each of those groups will win our grand prize, I'll show you later. One of our big, giant SC324 feeders that lets 24 finches feed at once. They normally travel in flocks of at least 20. Makes sense to have a big feeder, don't it? And you'll even get the seed. That's over a $50 retail value. Other thing you can do to win more prizes, ask questions. That automatically puts you in the pool and answer the questions I ask. I'll end that sort of thing with do me a favor. Tag someone, in the comments that you think would enjoy bird watching, and maybe start a bird watching party with your friends. That'll make you eligible also if you tag someone for one of our grand prizes today. So, and on the prizes, people ask, well, how am I going to get that thing? Well, up to now, we've mainly been FedExing those things out to you, and we put a little tip sheet and different things in there. But I would tell you, hey, why not look, if you don't already know, on our store locator or in the yellow pages for your local wild bird supplier. It would be much more efficient if we set that prize that you went on out to that person, and you can pick it up there when they're safely loading, as most of them do, some seed on the curb for you, or they can deliver it to you as they deliver seed to you. So keep that in mind if you're a prize winner, okay? Well, we called this session Going for the Gold, and that, of course, has a little bit of an Olympics theme. But before we jump into this guy, and I will remind you, hey, you be quiet down there. Hey, I said enough. These guys are nice birds. They are some of the first ones that come up to my feeders when I put out something new year-round, and we'll talk about that. They do love a special food, according to C is for cardinal, and I'm turning to G for goldfinch, called Niger thistle. That's this stuff here, a black seed. We'll talk in a little bit about, kind of like that seed, but got some problems with the supply chain right now. And it does say, as I told you, goldfinches live in groups. If you see one, you're probably going to be a bunch around. So that's true. But the problem is, they're not going to get the gold medal today. I wish they could, but I got to give you a quick update. And this will be the last time we talk about that Houdini guy on the air. But I was kidnapped. If you didn't catch last week or the week before session, we did pay a ransom. But we still are looking for Harry and Henrietta Houdini. And they're mad because we didn't have enough videos or photos sent in. So I got a favor to ask. Please, please, please send in and post some photos and some videos of squirrels in your backyard that you think are worthy to be on the American Squirrel Olympic team. That's right. The squirrels are going to have a team. But you know what? So are the goldfinches. So are the hummingbirds. Imagine you being captain of Team Hummingbird. I want that team. Can you imagine? That's the only bird that goes backwards. Who's going to beat them in gymnastics? Think about it. Holy moly, that's going to be some fun as we launch in the next few weeks, because we all miss so many things that we're supposed to be. Well, the Tokyo Olympics are off, but the backyard Olympics in the USA and the world are on, and you'll get details here later. So send those photos, we'll have some fun, and we'll go from there. But let's talk finches now. One of my favorite books on that, and this guy does not pay me. It's just he writes a lot of good books. Stan Tequila, just think that Mexican whiskey guy. He wrote a great book on finches where I found several of the facts I give you. But don't forget, your local supplier, a lot of them have these tips for goldfinches, tips to attract cardinals, different things. If not, go to birdmanmel.com and you'll find them. And speaking of that, we're going to make a shift starting next week. You will need to go to birdmanmel.com to see the videos if you don't want to participate, and you can just watch it. You don't have to go on Facebook or anything, but you're not eligible for the prizes. So if you could, get somebody to help you to go to Birdman Mel Facebook page, because that's where we're going. And why are we going? Well, this has kind of become a national crowd, as the posting today will show, and that lets everybody know, hey, this is not a show that we're going to sell you something. Some people felt because we're at songbirdstation.com it was that way. So Mid-Missouri people, it doesn't mean we don't love you, and it doesn't mean we don't want you going to Songbird Station to get all your great products, but it's about everybody else. We want to make sure it's very clear. This show is, number one, help you enjoy nature. Number two, to help independent retailers all over the country. So that's where we're at, and we'll have some fun today, okay? So let's talk finches. We think of and we titled the thing Goldfinches, but there's two other finches that I've seen in my backyard. Somebody named the other two types of finches you think Birdman Mel has seen. I'll pause a second to give somebody time to get that answer in first. You'll win a prize. Guess what? They're kind of a violet color. That's not really the right color. The two names are house finches and purple finches. And how do you tell those two guys apart? Well, if you've got something building a nest in your wreath, and that happened with my mom this past spring already, it's happened to a lot of us, I'll bet you money most of the time, that's not a house wren, that's a house finch. And that guy is over most of the country. And unfortunately, I don't have a bird either way on him to show you on the air, but we'll post pictures for you after this. And that is the most common bird as far as a finch of those two. The other buddy, his cousin, the purple finch, well, he's not really purple. He's more reddish. And really, when you look at him, he'll be a little bigger, quite a bit bigger, in my opinion, a little chunkier, a little bigger head than a house finch. And he was really, the first thing you want to do is look at a map. And there are some great maps in all the bird books, and we'll publish one here on the website after the show. But that purple finch, he's kind of just up the west coast, up the east coast. He has his nest up in Canada, and once in a while he'll get in the middle. But most of the time, if you're seeing a finch that's kind of that purplish color, and he's more like, I don't know, he looks like my wife gets mad, but when I spill wine on the carpet, well, it's kind of like he got wine spilled all over him, and that's going to be a purple finch. Now I call him a wine finch, I guess. I don't know. But let's have some fun and learn some more stuff. And again, I've told you most of the things I had down about that. I did forget to ask something. Please tag someone that in the comments who is maybe new to birding or wants to learn more. Reach out to your friends and tell them about what's going on here, because I think you will get a really, really, really happy response. So do that, and you're going to be eligible for one of those $50 things. And that's going to be that big old 3-2 feeder. So remember that. So we're going to go on into some goldfinch. This guy, fun facts. I did forget, and I want to make sure I tell you, I found out how the squirrels got into my yard, or into my house. We sell these little key holders, you know. They got a little thing in the bottom. Well, don't buy the one with this squirrel on it. He told me what squirrel, Harry Houdini told me this, what loving mother squirrel would see a little squirrel like this and not pick it up? And of course, they discovered the key. So remember that. They did also tell me that bungee cord they asked for in the ransom co-op is their favorite feeder. So if you want to keep them happy, use this thing. They also love the picnic table with that CNS peanut butter log on it. And you can see they already ate some more. And if you want some of these, get them ordered, because you guys are ordering these darn things as fast as we make them. So have a picnic for your squirrels. So enough of that. The other thought I had, though, on the house finch I meant to share with you is a lot of times birds will build a nest where you don't like it. Ever happened to you? Has to me. Somebody name another bird, another 2 birds that's done that to you, and you'll win a prize. And in fact, you'll win this prize. This shelf here is something I use to help. We call it a robin's roost. If you don't have a lot of trees and you put this up on a fence, it'll sometimes work. A robin will build a nest in here. But actually, I use it under the deck and stuff for a couple other birds. And what are they? The phoebe. The phoebe is the first bird here that says, it's spring, and you hear that, Phoebe, Phoebe. And I'm not very good at calls, so we're not going to do a lot of them. And the other one is swallows. A lot of times a swallow will build in the wrong place. So these nests, you know, you can make a shelf like this, any kind of shelf, to you know, someplace other than over your door where they normally want to do, and then boom, boom. And there is something called poop off if you ever need it that your stores can get you that help clean that little stuff birds leave behind sometimes. But a couple ways to keep that different birds like the house finches, cousins, away from your door. Kind of rambling today, I'm sorry, but I promised only 30 minutes. Hey, types of goldfinches. Wanted to make sure we had a class lesson here. There are several. The American goldfinch is the one most of us have. But an awful lot of you, from Texas to California along the border, then up across, you got one called the lesser goldfinch, and there's another one called the Lawrences that just a few of you got. Out west, it's all about finches and hummingbirds. 80% of the bird feeders we sell out there is that way. So if you live out west, and I know we got some of you guys on, you want to put out a finch feeder. Somebody says, do finches migrate? Well, they actually migrate within a range. There's actually been some birds that were, and what they do is they migrate looking for food. So the more you've got food, the more they stay around. I'm lucky. There's 300 acres of conservation. That's why we built our retirement home here. And a lot of them guys hang out there a lot. But in the spring or in the winter, they come over to my house and eat because they know that crazy old bird Man Mel got a lot of feeders out and got the right kind of stuff. How do you know if Niger is fresh, somebody says? Really tough to do. Depends a lot on the supplier. I will tell you, your locally owned bird stores, their seed turns very, very quickly, so your odds are much better there. The one thing you always want to do is, anytime I fill a feeder, I dump it out into a bucket. I'm tight. I don't lose, you know, if it's not wet and moldy, I keep it, and then I mix it in with the fresh. And we're going to show you some feeders that make it even easier, that you fill from the top one time and the bottom the next, okay? So some great questions. And somebody else said, how do I scare off the grackles? I'll do that one online. And how do I get rid of cowbirds and blackbirds? I'll do that one online. So really good questions, and those put you in the answer. So when do the Orioles appear in Ohio was another question. Go to birdmigrationmaps.com and you'll see Orioles come to you. It's a new map, and you can put your bird on it. But I got to keep going, and we're not going to get these Orioles done. So any of the other questions, I'll be answering online. So a couple tips that the goldfinch, she actually takes so much in her mouth that she only makes 1 or 2 trips an hour. And it's the only bird that doesn't eat many insects or many berries. And we'll tell you about some other things that are critical. Well, talking about the Niger thistle, not a fan of it right now. I've told you in past broadcasts, comes from India. They have to heat it up to kill the weeds. They cooked it too much, in Birdman's opinion. And I'm sorry, seed guys out there, that I make mad, but Birdman tells it like it is. So we don't sell much Niger in our store anymore. You got to take it from us. The only thing we recommend is this mix of fine chopped sunflower kernels and Niger together. And our supplier has done his very best to get the very best Niger. And I know all the local stores are concentrating on this. Not so sure some of them other guys are doing it. So one good way to do it. The other thing that I've got in the feeder, where'd it go? Here it is. And I've told you guys, I love these Aspects feeders because they open. You can fill from the top to bottom. But I've got just finely ground sunflower kernels in there. And if it says Niger, hey, that was our way of saying finches as a birding industry. So, I'm going to call my feeders in the future, finches, although redpoles, pine siskins eat from them too. So, a little confusing, but if it holds black Niger seed, it can hold some of these mixes that your local store has. So, try that out. But I love this feeder, the little thing here. It's raining like heck today. Goldfinches kind of like it not getting soaked. So, thank you, Miss Becky. Miss Becky, my daughter, our executive producer here in the house, and my wife, Bev, this thing would not happen without them. And it would not happen without Kaylee and her crew that's not right here. So some great seeds that way. Some other ways you can feed seeds is these little stackers. And if you're on a tight budget, I love these stackers. It just seems like they stretch the seed a little farther. And I think we now sell a version from Heath. One of the other brands decided they just want to mainly do business with the big boxes. So what the heck? We go in life where we want it, need it, but really like these little feeders. You can mix it up, so keep that in mind. There's also, remember what I said about mixing that Niger with some other stuff? Well, my friends at Pine Tree Farm make a great bell. And then there's cakes that you got out there. And all of these things, when you pack it in tight, it makes it a little harder for the birds to get it, but it does kind of stretch your seed dollars because, one or two gobbledygook squirrels or whatever can't come and eat it so fast. So that's kind of a cool thing. And forgive me, Harry, I didn't mean to offend you there. Okay? But I'm going to kind of slow up a little bit. I'm afraid I'm going too fast. Finches are one of the birds that will come to the window. So I put this seed here. Identify this seed if you would, please, and you will win a prize. It is Man Mel's favorite seed in the summertime because it doesn't sprout. My wife likes it, doesn't make a big mess on the deck. And a lot of your local wild bird seeds will sell this, wild bird suppliers, and they'll also put it in what we call a patio mix, a no-waste mix, a gourmet mix. This seed is sunflower kernels. It's a black hawk kernel, which when in doubt we'll talk about is the best seed there is. So I like that a lot. Some window feeders. Some other ways you can feed it is in a mesh feeder like that. Yeah, Miss Beckham will need some help moving some of this. I love it in these mesh feeders that are kind of pretty. It doesn't all have to be functional 100%. The birds go all over this thing to eat. And my favorite one of the two, remember I like to make people smile. Well, I like to smile myself. Watch out on the cats. This old boy here, I look out my window every day and see this. And the birds are just pecking on him, so we call it bird's revenge. But I really like this guy, but we will talk more about how critical birds are in the future, or cats, how bad they can be to the birds. But I'll end with our most important one, this 324. The photo on here is the photo in our backyard, and this is going to happen again soon. So just some of the different feeders I like. I'm not going to talk a whole lot more about that, but I got to say I love our spirals. They come up and down those. They just love to run that spiral. And I like this little video, cleaners only, we said. And guess what's in there? Sunflower kernels. So I like all that. And Ms. Beck, we'll probably skip this other bucket full here, and we're going to go to water. And why are we going to water? Because the goldfinches don't eat those bugs and that berries that's got water in them. So they got to have water to digest, make slurry for that mama to get that food and get it back to the babies, okay? So as we talked about in another program, moving water attracts 10 times more birds. So, some ways to move water is we got a cool little solar pump that my son Grant designed. Really like that thing. There's some folks that put out a water wiggler. Probably the most used thing. Looks like a spaceship landed in your thing. Remember, moving water is getting on mosquitoes, and I don't like getting eaten. And do be careful out there, folks. My wife and daughter are so sick of me taking photos, but we're going to post. I got a tick bite. Some folks haven't been in the yard for a while, forgot about ticks. Well, they're out there, so be careful. And if you want to see what one looks like and how to take care of it, we're putting that online too. Don't blame my family, it was my idea. But you want to keep your bath clean, so get the brush. You can brush it real easy. And I really love some of the cleaners that we've talked about before in our enzyme lines that work really good. And I intentionally use this bird bath to show you, not too deep, rough, you can get in it. But that there coneflower there, birds really, really like them coneflowers. And not just coneflowers, but marigolds, zinnias, cosmos, all those things. I was taught to deadhead them for beauty, and that's right, but you might leave one or two because the finches like them. And at the end of the season, please don't cut them all down. Leave them for the winter. They love them. So Miss Beck, I'll hand these just over your way. that lady there, she keeps busy really, really good. The other thing, if there's ever a time to buy a bird bath to use on the deck or on the ground or whatever, I like this old boy here. And it eats it up in the winter. And goldfinches are still here in the winter. It's just they're in what I call their winter army gray drabs. Not going to have that bright gold. The males only get that when it's time to get the girl. But they're there. They're in most areas a lot. In Texas, you guys have the lesser goldfinches down that way, but then they go off somewhere else, darn it. But, it is seasonal, and that's why a good bird book, like the state books I've recommended from Adventure Publications, are good ones. So we're going to cover one last thing. And if you watch all my shows, almost every show, I keep going through the National Wildlife Federation. What's the way to get the most birds in your yard? Water, place to reproduce, nesting, that sort of thing. Food, be it plants or be it food you put out. And protection from predators. And I mentioned that cat thing because cats are the biggest killer of songbirds. We've got a little flyer I forgot to hold up, but with the permission of ABC, the American Bird Conservatory, we're going to have that rascal on our website. Just words. I saw a horrible cartoon, I got to say. It says, don't shoot the cat owner. Well, I'd like to take a little more peaceful approach. We've got some good ideas in there from ABC on how you explain, maybe give this brochure to a cat owner to say, hey, man, do you know how much damage your cat's causing to the environment? So, cats, I'm not against them. They're great inside, but please, let's keep them inside because God didn't put them outside because out there they damage and kill a lot of birds. So going to have that out there, and I'm also going to have a thing about an expert coming in to talk about birds sitting in the glass. So a couple things going on, but I promised you we'd talk about some other birds, and that's this guy, which, by the way, is the indigo bunting. Those guys south of here, boy, don't you wish you had it? Texas, Oklahoma, down through Mississippi. They get this guy, the painted bunting. Isn't he beautiful? And the grosbeaks. And red grosbeak is the one that I get here. Both these guys kind of come up on the edge of the woods. So not sure if you're not next to some woods whether you're going to get them or not. This is the red grosbeak's cousin. He's supposedly in this part of the world. I've never seen a blue grosbeak. He's never come to my house. And if you haven't figured it out, I love those in the Audubon that take people for walks, but I kind of just watch the birds in my backyard. But this is a cool guy. But I find all of them come to big open feeders like this guy here. And when in doubt, feed one thing. Your best buy is a good black oil sunflower seed. And there is differences. I call it the chickadee test. All your local wild bird stores, and we at Songbird Station, we do the following. We have bushel weight standards on our sunflower. We make sure it's clean. You don't want all that junk in your feeder on the ground. And we make sure it's fresh and from a quality source. So just some tips on a good sunflower. I call it the chickadee test. You can open them up yourself, look and see. You'll see there's a difference. Or put it out for the chickadees. They'll tell you those local suppliers got better seed. I've told you in the past, though, and it wasn't a coincidence, the two feeders I just showed, we're letting all our employees get more involved in birding. So we gave these two out, that last hopper and this guy. This is my favorite. The birds come to it the first if they're going to come up. So remember, you can put out just a little bit on a hand tray, and you can, the squirrels, don't have to worry about the raccoons at night, that sort of thing. One last thing, and back, I'm going to take some of the feeders out of the metal. We're not going to talk about all this stuff. It'll seem like too much of a commercial. There's little balls out there. You don't have to buy an expensive feeder. These little things, just fill them full of black hole sunflowers. We make these at Songbird Essentials. Got a yellow one too. And that little feeder, like I showed you, here's one for sunflowers. It doesn't take a whole lot of money to do that thing. And there's a little bitty finch feeder that the folks from Safflower Labs, they make that really good stuff for hummingbirds to keep the nectar from spoiling. But all those things. One feed, I normally badmouth because I see so many mixes filled full of this stuff, and it ain't meant to go in a tube. And everybody puts their stuff in tubes and hoppers mainly. But millet. White millet is something I do find my indigo buntings like. They'll eat a little bit on the ground or on a tray feeder like this big old boy. Oh, yeah. That there roof on it, I don't use this time of the year except if I know it's going to be raining. But that millet does a good job as far as, that's something that some of the birds, some of the native sparrows and stuff really do come to millet. So while you may have heard the birdman say, don't like this in my mix, this time of year I throw some actually on the woods. I just throw it out in there and I put it on that tray. The other thing I want to mention is that big old 3-tube feeder that I had. I see indigo buntings on there once in a while. And I see more of them when I use a fine chopped sunflower mix than I do when I don't. So some fun things there about that. I'm going to need that last tray here in just a second. Let me look, where in the world are we at? And we've covered all this stuff. Did want to say, coming soon, you're going to see, look at it at birdmanmel.com. We're going to have an Ask the Expert time slot. I think it's going to be 7 Central Time. We're going to cover optics. We're going to cover how to ID birds, wood ducks, all kinds of fun things. We're going to have an expert on how to stop the birds from running into your house as far as the glass collection. They're going to be on a different day, and I think that's Wednesday sometime. We're going to have a children's time. We're going to have an author's corner. A lot of great people write books. I think that's going to be 8 o'clock on Tuesday. And my son, the wingman, Grant Tolner, is going to post some of his wingman facts on Tuesday. So watch for those. And all those things, we'll have everything at Songbird Station and at birdmanmel.com. So I want to remind you, next week, we're going to talk about what's hot, what your questions are. We're going to have a weekly tip on, how to beat the squirrels. Our main thing will be birdscaping your yard to inexpensively attract songbirds, butterflies, and hummingbirds. It's going to be cool. And we're going to have 5 minutes on just some fun, unique Mother's Day gifts. I'll show you a couple here. And we'll update you on where we're at on those migratory bird maps. Make sure you go to migratorybirdmap.com and post on there what you saw. It was fun to go on and say, hey, I saw Orioles. I wish my grandkids, we weren't doing that social thing. It would have been fun to do that with Eli. In the same way when that Oriole came. So keep that in mind. We're going to have some fun, fast-paced, whatever, and it'll be a good time. Some of the things that we will talk about, I'll show you here. You want to hand me one of them there, Miss Beck? Is we are going to talk about some things in landscaping, but some neat little things. And those of you in Columbia know we have this outdoor thing that we call it our garden gift gallery, where you can walk around, you can see all this stuff. Really happy to say these are a fair trade project type thing we do with some folks over in Mali. Aren't they beautiful? I call that my gentle, I'm at the beach sound. And I'll let Beck carefully take that, or you're going to hear nothing but that. It's quiet. You don't hear it too much. But just to remind you, we're going to cover, and it'll cover the whole Midwest, tried and true Missouri native plants, but we'll talk about things that work everything. Sometimes it's hard to tell what those guys look like when they come up the next year. I think I've destroyed a few. So happy I found a book I used to use, and I'm going to use it some more, a seedling ID guide for native plants, and it's not just for Missouri. And of course, we're going to cover a lot, birds for the hummingbirds, plants for the hummingbirds, and plants for the butterflies. So a lot of fun next week on that session, and I think you're going to like it. You're not going to be pitching a bunch of bird feeders or nothing. And remember, everything I show, it's not about buying that product, but about what I liked about that you should go to your local supplier and have them help you out with. Okay? That makes sense? Well, as we wrap this thing up, I hope I made you smile. I really hope you learned something new. Do know that we stay around. Thank God for Becky and for Bev. Becky goes online, helps me answer all your questions, and Kaylee helps me do that thing. So keep those questions coming in. We're going to answer them for you at Songbird Station Facebook, songbirdstation.com. And next week, we go to birdmanmel.com and birdmanmel Facebook. So all of those things will keep you up to date, but join us next week at birdmanmel Facebook page or birdmanmel.com if you don't want to do the Facebook thing. As I wrap it up, we're going to just remind you, take 5 minutes, sit in one place, look, feel, listen, touch things with your children, your grandchildren, and you're going to like what happens. It's going to be as good as any science lesson you ever did. I know I say that every week, but sometimes the old birdman's got to be reminded. So that's why I tell it to you. So thanks for tuning in. I really hope you had a great time, and I'll see you next week at Birdman Mel Facebook page. Have a super birdiful week, folks.